Thank you very much, Angelica. And now quickly for our final speaker on the panel, it's Fredrico Links from the IPPR. And I understand he's a bit more outspoken and so on, so I'm just going to give the floor to you, and afterwards we're going to open the floor for some questions and further panel discussions. Please give him a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy I spoke last because I was first on this program and I would have been totally embarrassed if I'd gone first. I think most of sort of the points that I wanted to raise were addressed in the first session with the Minister and Dr. White, and then also a lot of the issues came up in what was already said by Ms. Brown and Ms. Amporo. It's quite clear that we have a very serious issue with equality of opportunity in education, both in terms of access and in terms of the quality of education kids receive. And it's borne out by the figures that Ms. Brown showed us here, which I have to agree are very shocking. And as somebody who has written on education and educational outcomes over the years, I have to say it's not getting better. I can't see it getting better. And that leads us to ask what is happening? Why are we not scaling up improvements in the education system? And we have to have an honest, good faith discussion about what's going wrong here. We can't sit here and pretend that we're doing great things. And that our education system is fit for purpose at this stage, or was at some stage, when the outcomes that we're seeing simply make that a lie. And it is a lie. We're not doing great on any level within the education system. And I was interested in what this lady in front here said about her child being in a public school and not going out of here to enroll your child in a private school. And unfortunately, that is what you're going to have to do if you want your child to go anywhere in life. Because educational outcomes are directly correlated to the outcomes of people, the economic outcomes and the economic gains people make later in life, after school and after university and so forth. And that's the unfortunate truth. And that's where the inequality discussion has to take place. Why is this happening? Why are we failing? Because we are failing. And I'll just to make an example. A few years ago, a friend and myself, we did an experiment, which we wrote about. He's actually sitting there as a mathematics lecturer at the University of Namibia. And he came to me and we were talking about why were his students not up to standard? And he was complaining about this for a long time before we decided to do this. And so we decided to see where Namibia ranks, or where Namibian students and the Namibian education system in terms of mathematics teaching places our students when they get to university level. And what we found was that we looked at Namibia in the context of an upper middle income country, which is where we categorized, and we looked at other countries on the same level in terms of the quality of mathematics education. And what we found was that, for instance, he's from India. The things he was doing, the sort of topics he was covering in his classes were if we look at, I'm wrong. If we look at the curriculum, the mathematics, the senior secondary curriculum in terms of mathematics, and we look at what the topics are that Namibian students have to cover, learners have to cover, pupils have to cover, and we looked at, in terms of India, what he did when he was at high school. Namibian students were 2 grades lower at the same level, 2 or 3 grades lower, and the topics were fewer. So Indian students were being taught with much more rigor in mathematics, and that goes for all for science subjects as well. So in terms of the quality at an equal level, Namibian students were just being shortchanged across the board. And this goes when we looked at, for instance, China, because China is on the same level, and we looked at other parts of East Asia, and we looked at parts of Latin America, and the same was true. And this goes for science subjects as well. So in terms of quality that our students get, they are being shortchanged, on top of everything else that's wrong in the system. And then, of course, these challenges then cascade up into tertiary level if these pupils do make it to tertiary level. And it's reflected, I think, in those figures quite adequately. And he graduates. He's been in that department now for 5 years, 10 years. And he has graduated over the last 5 years in financial mathematics, because that's his field. He's graduated 5 people. 7 people. 7 people in 5 years. Now that's a problem. If you graduate 7 people in 5 years, it says something about the quality of, as I've indicated, the quality of mathematics education. But that goes into your other science fields as well. Because if you look at, and we did the same, we then looked at where pupils go after school in terms of what do they enroll for at university level at NUST and UNAM. And it's quite clear if you look at the enrollment figures in the science fields and you look at the enrolled figures in like your public admin and these sorts of things, the difference is staggering. And this has implications in terms of our development, in terms of innovation in the society, and in terms of, various other things. Things like, do we have enough engineers? Do we have enough doctors? Do we have enough pilots? All of these issues which have been topical in the media recently. And the unemployed graduate situation in fields where we seem to be producing a lot of graduates, which we do not have positions for, and where's our needs as a society in other areas. Now we have to situate this against the backdrop of what's happening in the global economy. And in the global economy, and inequality is an issue everywhere, in the global economy you have, in this digital age, what we call the information age, information and knowledge are power, and that's a fact. And you see the economic gains in this global tech-based economy flowing to people who are this tech elite, people with very specialized skills. And somebody mentioned here Jeff Bezos of Amazon and Jack Ma of Alibaba.com, and that's where the economic gains right now are flowing to this tech elite of highly intelligent, highly qualified people. Now, are we looking at the scenario of us under-preparing our students in terms of science and maths? Are we equipped to participate adequately in that economy that's happening right now and will be more and more in the future, where the economy of the global economy will be internet-based? We're already handicapping future generations. We're already not preparing our students and our pupils and our children for what's coming. And only those who can afford a private school education are actually able to do that. Whereas the rest, and if that's the rational conclusion you come to, then you have to admit that if you look at these stats, if you look at these figures, and you look at how children are not being prepared in terms of this computerized, this digital future at school level and at university level, then you have to conclude that we're probably not going to deal with inequality in the educational sense anytime soon. But that's a very doomsday, very pessimistic assessment. But that's where the facts take us. Now, of course, the question becomes, in an unequal, impoverished society with rampant unemployment, what do we do? Where do we go? And I agree with Pike here that, we're spending so much money on education, but what are we actually spending it on? Are we getting value out of our schools? I mean, all of what I've just said asks that question. And for me, the obvious, the rational conclusion I come to, if we want to fix the situation, we have to expect more of our schools, and we have to resource our schools properly. Because in a society with the sort of issues, the structural issues that we have, it's not just spending on education, it's not just relying on government to fix things. We have a problem with parent engagement in the education of their children. And this speaks to various other issues in people's lives, being unemployed, trying to survive day to day, so you're not all that engaged in your child's education. So there's an issue of parent engagement. There are issues related to housing and household circumstances, issues of violence and abuse and neglect, issues of transportation, how far are schools from where people live, and how much money people have to spend on getting their kids to school and so forth. And these are all issues that we can fix. These are all issues that can be fixed with proper planning and implementation. But I'm not getting the sense that we're actually devoting all that much to fixing some of these issues, the housing and the transportation issues that could really make a difference in children's lives and their life outcomes. So there are things that we can fix, and we can fix quality issues in the education system, in the curriculum. And that could be scaled up into tertiary level. You start off with primary level, you demand more of kids, you challenge them more, you infuse education with a more competitive culture where kids actually need to be challenged and engaged to compete. I believe that's